if we can be grateful for the things we do have, it changes our energetic signature. It changed, like gratitude is this incredible high vibration feeling or emotion that can reconcile and connect us to a future state that may not be here yet.
Welcome back, everybody, to the How to Be Human podcast. We have Georgia Ellis in the house today. Georgia, there she is. She's with us. I'm so excited to have Georgia here. She's a dear friend, and she is such a wealth of knowledge, and I can't wait to hear what she has to share with everybody. So, just to introduce her and let everybody know, Georgia Ellis is a dear friend and confidant. We met in passing days prior to being immersed into a retreat amongst the Redwoods of California in 2019. Her magnitude shines bright. She is a soul set forth to encourage other souls to shine their brightest, not despite the storms, but amidst the storms. Georgia's capacity shines to captivate and motivate humans to bring forth not only their best selves, but to ignite and awaken those parts of ourselves that lay dormant. It is in this capacity that her orchestrating of combining each subject's unique signature sound lays a harmony to bear. Don't blink or you'll miss it. Step in time with her and you'll be it. Amongst these transcendent qualities, Georgia walks daily with clients and lateral leaders as the founder of Blue Chip Minds. Georgia believes that as an individual makes personal shifts across body, mind, emotions, and spirit, organizations also begin to shift, resulting in increased employee engagement, enhanced leadership capabilities, greater output, and a winning edge in the marketplace. She is on a mission to help organizations and individuals thrive and to be an integral part in building a world where more people experience exponential growth through self-mastery. Please welcome my friend, Georgia Ellis.
Oh, Lara, that was beautiful. Like what you said at the start, I'm sitting there going, oh my goodness, is that how Lara sees me? Thank you. Thank you for such a beautiful introduction. Now it's up to me to live up to that.
Well, we'll see. I mean, you're here, so you're already shining bright, so we've got you. So, Georgia, I'm curious, tell me a little bit about what you do with Blue Chip Minds and how you work with organizations to help more people experience exponential growth through self-mastery.
Yeah, beautiful. So Blue Chip Minds, I set up, it was kind of a little bit of a divine intervention, actually. So I was doing a lot of work one-on-one with individuals, and somebody had actually said to me, this work would be really powerful in corporate organizations. And this was about 9 years ago now. And at the time I'd thought that, but I thought no one's ready for this, because there's a real fine line between bringing a soulful approach to the work you do in a corporate organization where everything is pretty much, I'm going to say, kind of left-brained, very analytical. Well, it was in the past. And so I then started to dip my toe into how I can help people, probably the topic of this conversation, to be more human, to be a whole human at work instead of just putting on the hat for work. And how do I then get in touch with who I am so I can be my best self, not just for the work I'm doing, but for the people I'm working with, and then my family and the community we're serving. Big task, big goal. But yeah, so the work is all around running organizational programs and doing some leadership coaching to just help people sort of chip away at the barriers and the kind of crust we've put on ourselves that hides our inner gold. And so how do we start chipping away at those things, those outdated beliefs, the unproductive habits and things that we do that don't serve us and serve what we're wanting to do? How do I give people the information and the tools to be able to do that for themselves? I don't want to go in and do it for them. And then I set myself the goal to do that. And I set really high standards and principles for myself. And I made a pact with myself that I wasn't going to be one of the facilitators and trainers or coaches of the past who sit there and basically on the sidelines and just deliver information. That didn't cut it for me. I wanted to be someone who could actually stand at the front of the room, deliver a framework, but then give real life examples from my life, how I've used it. And the transformation I've experienced, or the failures I had with it, and then how I got over them. And so really bringing my own experience to the facilitation, to the coaching, so that then I can connect at a different level with people than just being at the front of the room and getting people to go through workbooks or whatever it might be. So it's, yeah, I think I bring a different element to what most people would do in that training space.
Yeah, I liked what you said there about kind of like, yeah, get into that inner gold of somebody. And I don't think that's talked about a lot in business and corporations and organizations. It's more about whatever the task is at hand, what the goals are of the business. That's what you're supposed to work towards. And what I'm hearing is that, if an individual can move from this space of their inner gold, they're more intrinsically motivated to put effort towards, more of these external goals, because it's an internal and external game. I'm curious, in the last couple years, since we've kind of had this global change of life since 2020, and you're in Australia and I'm in the United States, so we have a little bit of an international view of things, kind of small. But have you noticed, from your perspective, more people in the workplace? Like, what has that shift been like? Have more people been able to get to that gold space since we've been through so many transitions in 2020, 21, 22?
Oh, that's a hard question to answer, because I see glimmers of hope. Yes, there are people that have realized that, hey, what's going on in my life? What am I actually doing in my job? Do I want this? And then they're starting to a little bit more of that self-reflection. In the last couple of years, people had that opportunity to actually step back and think about that. But then a lot of people didn't, because they didn't have the tools or the knowledge beforehand, and they got caught up in it all. And things actually got worse. I caught up with somebody who I had managed many years ago before I started my business, and he was just burnt out because he didn't have the tools to navigate the last couple of years. And that was a real eye-opener for me. I'm thinking, wow, here I was working with organizations during those 2 years, giving them some incredible tools, witnessing some profound changes with culture in organizations, thinking in this own little bubble that, everyone's going along on this journey, when the fact is it's very varied. I think there is definitely a shift, but there's also more of a hiding away and hoping it'll all pass and I don't have to change who I am for this new world. So it's a bit of everything. We're very complex.
That we are. Yes. So almost more of an extreme on both ends of, more people diving into perhaps inner work, how can I be a leader? How can I be more involved with work, but more with what's inside of me, and people, like you said, hiding their heads underneath what's happening and just trying to push forward. Do you see, from your perspective, any way to bring those two different angles together? Because people who perhaps are doing the work and want to lead and want to open up more, do breath work in their organizations, whatever the tools are, seem to continue to be moving down that path, because once you use those tools, they work. And to live in the world that we live in now, you got to do some form of self-work, whether it's breathing, writing, working with other people, connecting, whatever it is. That's what I feel. So perhaps I'm over on that side. And then, yeah.
Yeah, no, I just wanted to touch on that, because one of the things I am noticing, and I had a conversation with somebody just the other day around this, was he was helping me co-facilitate something that I'm running for an organization. And he was coming in, he's passionate about what he was doing, and he's got a lot of knowledge and expertise around the topic we were presenting. So if we were to look at it in levels of awareness, he was coming in up here, the people were down here. And so when we finished the session that he co-facilitated with me, I sat back and I said, what we really need to do is, you might have all this, but we've got to put the brakes on and meet people at where they are. And to answer your question, you know, if there are people out there that are wanting to help, to guide, to step in for those people who are kind of hiding behind the bush and don't want to come out, they're waiting for it all to be over, is meet them where they're at. If we go into any kind of situation where we're trying to be better, more knowledgeable, people just shut down. So one of the things that I've had feedback on around my approach is that, and this comes from quite a lot of different angles and different people in different levels of an organization, from executive board down to the, you know, not that I'm not putting me in hierarchy, but to the person who's working in the, you know, the shop floor, so to speak, is that somehow I have this ability to simplify complex frameworks and information. And that's because I'm simple myself. And so I have to do that. I have to do that so I get it. And then I speak to people, I can meet where they are, because I remember where I was, you know, 20 years ago when I started my own personal journey on, you know, leveling myself up. I didn't know anything and it had to be simplified. And so we forget that. We do all of this incredible work. And if I went in and started talking to someone about some of the knowledge and experiences I've had, they're going to think I'm loopy. And if I start going and go, hey, come and do some breath work, without actually meeting them where they're at, asking them some questions, what are they wanting to get out of, you know, an experience or work, then they're just going to think I'm loopy. Just what, you want me to breathe? However, I have breath work in some of the programs that I teach, but it's very contextual around how it's going to help them in the work that they do. So I'm meeting them where they're at. So I think I'm actually really confident that that's a way forward for anyone who's trying to approach or make a difference in the world, is, you know, let go of the ego and just meet people where they're at.
Where they're at.
Yeah. And, you know, you think about this, I don't have children, but I do recall, and I still do this, is when I'm talking to a child, I get down, I squat down and meet them at their eye, and I meet them where they're at, and I talk to them at their level. And that's the same thing, like get and meet people where they're at. They trust you then. There's this level of trust and there's this level of connection as well.
It's true. It's true. I've heard of a similar saying of, if you can't describe a concept or a term to a second grader, you don't know it well enough. So
Yes, Einstein said that. Yeah, if you can't explain something to a 5-year-old, you don't know it.
yeah.
It takes, you know, to make complex things simple is actually hard work.
It is. It really is. And so if we're kind of talking about, you know, you're going into organizations, so they're actually opening the door to have you there, whether they've got any resource tools or not, whether any people are kind of ducking their heads underneath the bushes. I get worried that if somebody's not resourcing themselves with tools and they've got their head underneath the bush, that at that point, sometimes it takes some sort of breakdown or hitting a wall or burnout before a breakthrough or an opening up to want some sort of resource or help. Do you know of any way to bridge that connect? You know, you said meeting them where they are, but there's a whole lot of people kind of just not looking at what's going on in the world and how they could perhaps be more connected, tuned in, turned on, turned up. Have you?
Yeah, I've experienced that. And if I go back to when I first started, I thought it was my job that everyone understood everything that I was presenting. And I'd take it personally if someone didn't want to be in the room, in the training room, if somebody didn't want to participate, or if somebody asked questions that I felt were trying to shut me down and undermine what I was saying. Right. So this was me I'd probably say 6 years ago. And I call these people hostages. So what's happening is an organization or a friend or a family member said, hey, go do this, it'll really help you. And they're going and they don't really want to be there and they're feeling like a hostage. And I can remember running a program for a large global organization. I was in London, and I can remember the group. I think there's about 16 people coming in that day for a workshop, and they all came in. They're all really great. And one guy just come in, he's really ho-hum and really like this. And I know he hasn't got good vibes. And I asked him how he was, and he just all excuses. I've got all this work to do. I shouldn't be here. Like the hostage behind the bush. I'm, you know, I don't want to do any of this kind of work. And I remember thinking, well, how do I approach this? And I just thought, I'm going to call them out. So when no one was there, because he was being all those behaviors, he was portraying all those behaviors up until I think it was morning tea time. You know, when we're asking to do group things, he'd sit like this. And then when there was times to ask questions, he'd ask questions that were kind of trying to prove me wrong or something like that. Not out of curiosity, but more of, I don't want to be here. I'm going to just make the facilitator look like a fool. So I remember in the morning tea break, everyone went out and he sat at the still sat at his table. And I walked up to him, I can't remember his name. And I said, look, I get this real impression that you don't want to be here. And I said, and I'm okay with that. If you've got things that are more important to you to do than investing in yourself and being here with your team members, I'm more than happy for you can leave now. And he turned around and looked at me. And because I'd given him permission to do the thing he wanted to do, he chose to stay. Because what I did was I went and I met him where he was at. I didn't actually meet him where he was at, as in I didn't go and meet him at the level of awareness he was at. I actually called out his behaviors and said, I'm noticing this. Is everything okay? If you don't want to be here, that's quite okay for you to leave. Because I don't want hostages in my classes. And so hiding behind a bush takes on many forms. There are people who, I guess, are not aware that they're not aware, that unconscious incompetence, but they just don't know what they don't know. And I think if we can be curious and step up for those people, we give them an opportunity to choose. Do you want to grab this rope, or do you want to go off into your whatever it is? I was going to say drown, but that's a bit dramatic. And so we give them an opportunity, and some people aren't ready. Now, I can tell you, this guy, for the rest of the afternoon, he played full out. And instead of trying to undermine me, he was contributing wisdom. Like there was a real shift in that. So I'm wondering if we can experiment with that approach as humans, is when people are doing things, there's doing behaviors or showing behaviors that feel like they're out of sync. Can we lean in with compassion and curiosity? Can we find out what's actually going on for them? And not many people do that. Yeah. Sorry.
Go ahead.
I was going to say, and even more recently, I'm running a program for an organization here in Melbourne, and I'm really noticing the lower levels of self-awareness from this group of people. There's a few people that would have what would call higher levels of self-awareness. They've actually done some personal development work themselves outside of the work environment. But I was hired by this organization because this particular team and the organization have never done any professional personal development outside of the skills they need for their job. So I'll send you on a course to learn how to do, project management or to do whatever the skills are, but nothing around who I am and how I'm showing up as a human at work. And it was a struggle to start with. Now we're doing this over 15 weeks, maybe 16 weeks. And the executive who onboarded me rang me last week and he said, just want to check how you're going with this. And I said, look, I'm really noticing that these people have forgotten how to learn. I said, but that's okay, because we're having breakthroughs. We're having little mini breakthroughs. And a lot of people there who were pushing back against the program because we don't have time to learn. We don't have time for this. They've never done it before and they'd forgotten how to learn. And then this executive shared another beautiful example with me. He said, we've got one person who's going through your program at the moment, and he's a really integral part. I think he said they are a really integral part to the team and the organization. And we really actually need them to step up. And this particular staff member, he said, came into me ready to resign. And then he said, but I've changed my mind because of the program you've got us on. Because I realized that the reason why I wanted to resign is because I wasn't ready to step up and find out what I was capable of in the organization, the changes that we were going through were scaring me and I wanted to leave. He said, I've changed my mind. I'm hanging around. I want to be here and I want to see what I can do. And so having that executive pass that on to me, I went, wow. And I don't know who he was talking about. I don't know who it is, what was said, because he said there was something specific that was said in one of the classes that made him change his mind. I don't know who it is. Don't know what I said or what was said. But here's the thing. That's what I love about the work I do. I never know. I never know what the effect is going to be. And if I show up and put my best foot forward and trust what I've built over the years, and I know from the evidence from people who've gone through my programs that shift happens, changes happen, and I never know who it's going to be or how many people, but there has been definitely culture change because of it.
So if, you don't know who's being affected, but shift happens, and, I would assume that you're not externally motivated, mostly intrinsically motivated, but, we all have a part of us that want to see the things that we're affecting. What drives you, Georgia, to make that next class, to, create a new piece of program will work together to bring to the next people? What is that drive for you?
So I said earlier that sometimes, there are things that I kind of know and am experiencing in my own life that I probably wouldn't teach and facilitate just yet. And part of those things are the magic of being human and the power of creation we have within us. And what I want is for people to get to, or what I'm hoping is that more humans get to this state where they understand how creative they are. And so the thing that drives me is I look back at myself 20 years ago and I didn't have a clue at this gold. Like I was so crusty and dirty on the outside. Like you could not see the gold. Well, maybe some that was there, but I couldn't see it when I looked in the mirror. And through a lot of the self work and so forth, I started to pull it apart and go, oh, wow, I can create. This body is more than just flesh and blood and bones and cells. It's a vehicle. And I need to work out and learn how to use this vehicle. And so I've been experimenting with that over the years. And I just want more people to see the potential and the possibilities that are within them. And so that's the motivator. And the thing that changed me was knowing that I needed to change the way I thought about the world. So perception. I need to change my perception about myself, about the world. And so that drives me now to go, well, if we want to create a better world, I've got to create better humans. And what a better way of doing that is to just inch by inch, little by little, help them chip away at some of that dirty, crusty stuff that we've been carrying from millennia and millennia. Mm-hmm. And even if it's just a little bit, even if this is one person that stays in an organization to show up and to make a difference, that's incredible. And there's no better feeling to have another human being come up and tell you that you've changed their life. Like, I didn't know that was going to happen when I started. No idea. Absolutely no idea.
It's beautiful. That gold is shining through now.
Yeah.
You've done the work and you get to pass it on, and it's not necessarily a transactional experience. It's just a continued shining and illuminating that expands and moves through people. How beautiful. And part of my brain wants to like track it and like know who it is and where it's going and like put the things on the map. And
I used to be like that. I actually am not attached to it anymore. And I think that's part of the blessing is that I'm no longer attached. I was attached earlier on when I started creating these programs because I kind of knew what I was presenting worked because it had worked for me. But I needed to see it working for other people. And I get that now with feedback. So now I'm no longer attached. I just know that if I show up and be the best version of myself, the content I've created actually does all the heavy lifting. I've just got to help people, guide them to have conversations around what they're learning and how they can implement it in their lives. So I'm attached, but I care about the people, but I'm not attached to who said what, who's going to change, because everyone's going to approach it at their own level of awareness of where they're at. And the content has been designed in a way that if you're somebody who's done a lot of self-work and personal development, you'll get something out of it. If you're a first-time person, that same module, you'll get something out of it. So there's like, it all depends. It's there to meet people on all the different levels of development.
Beautiful. So you are building better humans just for the art and creativity of building better humans.
Yeah, why not? I've got nothing else to do.
Sounds so fun. What a perfect segue. I mean, you're building better humans, and what better person to ask who's had so much experience watching people grow and shift, and maybe not measuring their progress in certain ways, but watching the programs that you build change people's lives, no matter where they are. I'd be curious, Georgia, to you, how to be human, and what is the best integration of humanness?
You know what, I thought about this question because you send through the emails around some of the questions. I thought about it, but I didn't have an answer prepared. And how to be human? Well, it's really interesting because there's almost 8 billion examples on the planet. And I don't believe any of them are wrong. So how to be human, just look outside and you're seeing everyone's being human. What we don't know how to be is a dog, a cat, a flower, a rock. We already know how to be human. And I wonder if the question is, how do we be better humans?
How do we human well?
Yeah. I like that. And for me to answer that question is well, what I'm noticing is get the mirror up and have a look at ourselves. First of all, the best integration of being humanness is well, have a look at yourself and have a look at what you're leaving behind, the trail behind you. Is it a trail of destruction and devastation, or is it a trail of rejuvenation and growth? So only you can answer that, because you'll know with your actions and thoughts what's happening in your life. So if you've got no friends and people don't like you, well, you're leaving a trail of devastation, aren't you? And disconnection. So show up, have a look in the mirror. What are your results showing you about your life? And then that's the invitation. Or as Joseph Campbell says, the call to adventure. And if you're leaving a trail of devastation and things aren't working for you, answer the call. See how you can make a slight change. And one of the things I learned early on, and this is, everybody probably knows this now, but it was just a really interesting little example of how a small change can make a big difference. So that it's like the razor's edge, that tiny little 1%. So for us to be better, if we just make 1% change in what we do, it has a huge impact. It changes our trajectory. It changes our destination. And I remember hearing that for the first time, and I was actually in my 30s, so I was still quite old to actually be hearing something like that for the first time. And the way it was explained to me was that, for instance, if I was to get in an aeroplane over in, let's say, Los Angeles, I'll use America as an example, and the destination is a straight line up to New York, right? There's a straight line. But if I just change that by 1%, by the time I keep flying that 1%, I'm going to end up somewhere else. I'm probably going to end up, I don't know, where would I end up if it was 1%? Probably over the ocean. I'm trying to see my
Africa or something, depending on 1%
way. Yeah. But you won't end up in your destination. So if we're looking at how to be a better human and how to human well, what's your 1%? Like, what's that one little change you can make? And one of the little things that I did personally many years ago was I just changed my approach when I got angry or I had negative. I'm not saying that I still don't get those, because I am human, and that's the full integration of human, is to experience every single bloody emotion that there is. I remember hearing someone, I think it was from Neil Donald Walsh's book, Conversations with God. I remember reading that. And one of the quotes and one of the suggestions in there was, you know, when things aren't going well, just ask yourself, what would love do? And so that's been my mantra for 20 years. If there's someone cuts me off in traffic, if I really love this other human being, what would love do? Love would wave them in and go, it's okay. I wouldn't need road rage because I love that human being. If my partner cheats on me, and I've had a couple do that, what would love do? Love would allow them to live their journey and forgive them and move forward. And so that was my 1%. Changed the trajectory of my life.
What would love do? What do you think? I mean, obviously you've set some boundaries in there because you're not next to those people who cheated on you and are living their lives, right? So
yeah.
That could get a little convoluted of, you know, love doesn't let them do it, and you don't sit there and take the...
No, exactly. And love actually sets boundaries. Like, if you ask yourself, what would love do? Love sometimes is about loving ourselves too. And, you know, I've got dogs, right? And I've seen dogs without boundaries that aren't trained, and they do not look happy. And not only that, the owners don't look happy. So for me, I look at that and I go, well, I need boundaries in my relationships as well. That's love. That's setting expectations. Now I know the directions with my partner, what's acceptable and what's not acceptable. That's love. That's what love would do. Love would say, hey, don't do that. You're hurting me right now. Whatever you said. So it's not like, hey, what would love do? Let's just jump around and just love everyone. And well, we are loving everyone, but it's more deeper understanding of everyone as well.
Absolutely. And, you know, looking back on our paths, and sometimes it could look like that's a path of destruction where it's actually been a boundary that's been set of a behavior you're not going to allow in your life anymore. And that's okay too. That's not destruction. That's a boundary.
Yeah.
I got really curious when you were speaking, Georgia, about just what do you think, what kind of tool or resource would have the most impact for somebody? We're talking about compassion and curiosity and love and boundaries. And if somebody, you know, came to you and needed something, what one resource would you choose of, like, this will have the most impact for you?
All of the above that you just said are incredible tools, but the one that tends to bubble up to the top the most is genuine, generous curiosity as a tool. It solves so many problems and solves conflict. And so you can be curious about yourself. You can be curious about your upbringing. You can be curious about how your body and your mind works. You can be curious as to why someone disagrees with you. You can be curious about how a certain piece of machinery works. You can be curious about how nature works. So curiosity builds evolution. It builds mental complexity. So if you want to change, get curious.
We're putting on a banner: curiosity. If you want to change, get curious.
I mean, there are so many different tools, and I'm sure there's more out there. Like, I've come across so many in my journey, and that's purely from curiosity. I've gone down the rabbit hole of energy healing. I've gone down the rabbit hole of meditation. I've gone down the rabbit hole of breath work, and there's so many different tools out there. But here's the thing, they're tools. All right, so grab your toolbox, fill it with tools and know when to use which one. Know how they work, then know, well, hang on a minute, I need to get the screwdriver out for this because a pair of pliers probably isn't going to do the job. I might be able to do it, but it might not be as effective. So know, you get tools and know them and know when to use them. And sometimes you need to use two at once.
Getting curious helps you learn what tools apply for the right situation. It cuts through your discernment to be able to move quicker and operate with, one tool, two tools, sometimes three. Yes. Break them out.
And there's a bit of danger too, I believe, and this is what I've noticed as I've matured and got a bit older, in thinking that there's one way for everything. So for instance, let's just take a general modality such as meditation. So if I was a meditation teacher and I thought meditation is going to help you with everything, so therefore you need to meditate every day, do it, morning and evening. So this becomes the tool, and we get trapped by the tool, thinking it's the one fix for everything. Well, it's a tool. Put it in your toolbox. Bring it out when you need it, because you know what it does. You know what meditation does. So use it for that thing. Don't become a slave to the tool, because then you miss out on life.
Ooh, that is so good, Georgia.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting because I was a little that way. Like I had a program that I was running on behalf of somebody else, wasn't mine, before I created my own programs. And I thought it was a one-stop shop. It'll fix everything. And that was my approach. That was my approach to gaining clients. This was the one-stop shop, had everything in it. Well, actually, it didn't have everything in it. But then I'd hear people who were also my peers doing the same thing, selling, I'm going to use the word selling this same tool as something that's going to help somebody with their cancer or something. And it's a personal development program. I'm going, hang on a minute, you're crossing the line here. Right. So we really got to think about what's the tool good for? Is it the right tool for this person or this situation? And then use it and realize that there's more than one. In fact, there's a plethora of tools. There's no right or wrong. You've just got to experiment, get curious, and find what works for you.
So continuing to be curious with the tools you have and the ways you can apply them, and then the different situations that are going to come up in your life and what you're moving through. I mean, all of that changes too. So what a beautiful answer to that question. Thank you so much.
Curiosity's at the top.
I think if we kind of go on this theme of humaning well, how could we intentionally engage all humans to be better humans?
Intentionally, I think it comes from us showing up ourselves and being that metronome. So I don't know, and I've said that without context, right? So that's obviously something just channeled through me. So there's this incredible video on YouTube of a whole lot of metronomes. So a metronome keeps time. That's the thing, it goes like this, like goes across and it keeps time. And so I don't know how many there are. Let's say there's 30 metronomes on this board. And they start with the metronomes and they select them so they're all out of sync. Right. So our aim here is to get the metronomes, the humans, to all be well together, to be better. Right. So we want them all to be in sync. But what we need to be is the tuning fork for that metronome that starts them off. And we need to set the example. So I've forgotten your question, but my answer is, we need to be the example. Can you read the question out to me again?
I can.
I want to make sure I've answered that right.
How can we intentionally engage all humans to be better humans?
Yeah, be the example. And who was it? The Dalai Lama? Be the change you want to see in the world. Be it. Change yourself. And I've had friends come up to me, and it's almost like that scene out of When Harry Met Sally, I want what she's having. People have come up to me and said, oh, what are you doing? I want what you've got. I want your life. And that's just me showing up and putting my best foot forward and trying to be the example. And I'm not perfect either. I have bad days, and you'd be aware of that because I've shared some of them with you. I have days where I hit rock bottom, but you know what? I can still show up and be an example and show people that we have the tools to get through that. So I think being an example and striving to be better yourself will have an incredible ripple effect to those around you. And then those around you will have a ripple effect. It's like the work I do. I just touch a few people and then they go out and touch a few more.
It does. And I think the difference that we're kind of talking about here too is through your leadership, you're not trying to create anybody to be like you or be the way you want them to be. Your leadership is encouraging them to express who they are, who their best self is, and to bring that goal to light. And that's a really big difference.
And I think there's just a slight play on words there. It's also deciding who they want to be. Because there's there's a bug flying around me. Like we get told all the time to be your authentic self. I'm not going to do that because that's not who I am, right? Well, who are you? So if you think about the moment you're born, you're this incredible expression of life. This is before you've got a little bit of programming through your DNA, but this is before the environment starts to tune you in and your parents start to kind of dictate who you're going to be. So who we think we are is actually who we've been told we are. So why don't you choose who you want to be and move towards that? And I have so many people, in some of the work I do and people that I coach, oh, I can't do that. That's not me. I go, how do you know? Have you ever done it before? Like, give it a go. You might like it. It could be you. And it's as simple as, like, for instance, these glasses, my other pair of glasses. 20 years ago, I wouldn't have worn glasses that were thick frames like this, and my other ones are a little bit funkier and shiny. I would have said, that's not who I am. That's not my authentic self. Well, hell yeah, it is now. I've been wearing them now for a couple of years. It's me. And you know what? I might change them later and I could be somebody else, but I get to choose. So part of the work I do is to help people explore and let go of the beliefs that they think they are a certain way, but to go into choosing who they want to be and bring forth their best version of themselves. They get to create that. And there'll be elements of who they think they are that survive through that process because they're good things we want to keep. They make us feel alive.
Absolutely. It's almost like we've crossed the bridge here from allowing the gold to emerge as if there's just some part of us that needs to all of a sudden shine through, and walked over to this space of like, no, you kind of get to choose and peel back any layer here. Do you like that part? Okay, let's bring that forward. Okay, do you want to bring in more artistry, more creativity? Okay, let's bring that in. How can you express that? Creatorship of not just creativity in the external world, but like creating who you are and who you want to be. Like that's a whole different ballgame.
That's adventure and that's fun because you get to experiment. You get to be curious. I remember many years ago, and my friend, she will not mind me saying this because she brought it up in a conversation recently. This was actually during my formative turning kind of point. So it would have been 20 years ago. And I remember we shared an office together and I had met her at work and she kept saying, oh, I'm not creative. I'm not creative. And at that point, I'd learnt that we're all creative. We were born creators, right? I had this deep belief. I was learning that through the readings I was doing and the work I was doing outside of my employment. And I looked at her and I said, everyone's creative. And she goes, no, I'm not. I said, yes, you are. And I said, I'm going to give you a challenge. I said, how about you have a go at writing a poem? She goes, I can't do that. I'm not creative. Next day, she comes into the office and she's written this incredible poem. And I said, you are creative. And she goes, yeah, I never thought I was. Everyone has to tell me I was good with numbers, so I just believed it. We're all creative. We can pick and choose what we want to be. And there's some incredible resources that actually prove this to us. And what's his name? Todd Herman's book, The Alter Ego Effect, talks about how we can start to step into the personas of someone else. Like, we're not faking anything. If I'm the one acting it out, it's me. Like, how can it not be my authentic self? I'm not pretending, I'm actually doing. So it is me. Do it enough, it becomes second nature and it becomes your personality. But, you know, all these people say fake it till you make it. Well, actually, while you're faking it, you're actually doing it. You are it. No one's like, you're not faking it for me. That's fake. But if I'm actually taking the actions, it's my body, it's my mind. I'm doing it. So it's me.
I love that.
It can be anything.
It can. So if we're talking about people that we would want to not just emulate, but not even borrow their skills, have the skills ourselves, what do you think, Georgia, are the best examples of being human? Who are these people and what do their practices look like?
7.97 billion people on the planet. I'd say every single one of them. We all are the best versions of actually being human. We're all on this evolving planet through this little spaceship going through space, and we're all doing our best.
We are. We definitely are.
With what we know and what we believe. I think, I don't know. And I hate to say this person's the best version, because I actually don't know what people have been through. And I think we're all doing our best given the information we have at hand.
Let me reframe it just to tease out here. Is there anybody out there who has a skill or perhaps a really good listener and you're like, I'd like to try that hat on for a little bit? Where you're at in your life right now, is there anybody that you see that, I guess it's kind of asking if they have something that you feel like you don't, but that you would want to create more of in your own presence and being?
Something I'd like to dial up, because it's already part of me.
Dial it up.
Turn the volume up on a little bit. I can't think of anyone. I'm guessing they can be dead or alive. At the moment, I'm having a little bit of fun playing with all the work I've done for the past 20 years. So I'm about ready to think about what's next. And let me just think. I want to really get more better. That's a really terrible phrase. At deliberate creation. I do it and I play with it and I really enjoy it. So if there's someone I'd like to emulate at that level, although I'm pretty good at it, but I'm not expert level yet, maybe Dr. Joe Dispenza would be someone I'd probably go, oh, I'd like some of that. Dial that up a little bit more. Yeah, that's a good question. And I think I'm still exploring that at the moment as well. There's so many people have been influential in my journey, whether they've been people through books or people that I've sat at their feet and training, and they've all left little bits of gold dust on me, which has been incredible. And I've plucked the feather from them and just put them into my own little wings so that I can, be better at humaning. There's a lot of those people, too many to name, but, and I don't actually like singling out Dr. Joe Dispenza, because I think there's so many people out there.
This might be a great segue into a book that you could write about people, little different
Yes, a book. Yeah, we'll get to that one day.
Okay, we'll
I'm
put
too
this
busy
one to
doing
the
other
side.
I'm having too much fun being human, actually. And I must say, it's not always fun. There's, but it's a bit of an adventure. And the older I get, there's so many things I wish I'd known when I was younger, but then at the same time, I wish I didn't know it, because ignorance is bliss.
There you go.
To a degree. To a degree. To a degree.
Okay, let's move on to the next one. We don't have to single anybody else out. I appreciate you bringing Joe Dispenza to the forefront and deliberate creation, because that is some magic work there. But we'll move on. What to you, Georgia, are easy reminders to be more human when some around us are walking and talking a little less human, perhaps more programmed, conditioned?
Yeah. So do you want easy reminders for people to think about, or what I use?
I want what you use. Give me the juice.
The juice? Okay. So one of them is what would love do. That's something that I do when I'm seeing people that are being a little less better humans, little less humaning well. But I always come back to nature and looking at the way that nature thrives together, connectedness. It shows up with abundance. It gives to us without asking anything really in return. It filters the air that we breathe. I've got a tangerine tree that produces more tangerines that I can actually eat. Like, how abundant it doesn't go, oh, you only need 3 this year. Like, have a tree full of tangerines, right? So then I can go out and share them with other people. The animals, just watching the animals. So I think we can actually learn with what we're connected to and what we're a part of. Teaches us there's so much wisdom just in the tiniest things out and about in the world around us that can help us show up when the world around us seems like it's falling apart and people maybe aren't being the best versions of themselves. And for those one-on-one moments where there's like it's a loved one or a colleague, this is where the tool of curiosity comes in. Compassionate, generous curiosity, letting go of judgment and just leaning in and asking, because generally distress or people not showing up in the best form have got something going on that we don't know about. And so how can we lean in? What would love do? How can I be curious here? How can I take the example of nature and just give without nothing in return to these people through curiosity? Because we just want to be heard most of the time.
So being an opening, listening ear, leaning in when somebody might need it. And perhaps someday somebody will lean in for you if you need it as well. Thank you. Beautiful. We're going to move on to the next one. Georgia, how do we reconcile where we are with where we want to be with grace and ease?
One word: gratitude. So where we are right now, and we are at a place where we kind of don't feel like we want to be, like there's something else out there. If we can be grateful for the things we do have, it changes our energetic signature. It changed, like gratitude is this incredible high vibration feeling or emotion that can reconcile and connect us to a future state that may not be here yet. And it's actually part of deliberate creation. Is gratitude's the tool that gets you there. It's an incredible magnet. Or we become a magnet when we're grateful. So be grateful for what you have. And you know what? So many people say that, but very few people really understand what gratitude is. Gratitude's an entire somatic, entire body feeling. It's not just, hey, thanks for getting me my cup of tea. It's looking that person in the eye and feeling what they've done for you. They've gone and they've put the kettle on, they've boiled the water, they've done this and they've brought it to you. looking them in the eye, thank you so much for bringing me this cup of tea, is a completely different way of doing it. So if we can be grateful for the things we have around us, you'll find that the things we're grateful for show up more in our life as well.
That is 100% true. And I will share from my background of being a fitness coach, if you can train those pathways of gratitude in the somatic way that you, like you are saying, sit in that space, just sit in what it feels like to have somebody put a tea kettle on the stove for you and pour tea, that sense, and feel it again, feel that moment again, and feel it again. It lights up different somatically in your body. And then once you practice that, it becomes easier to catch those moments. Oh, there it is again. And be in it and replay it again, replay it again. That's something I had to experience, was replaying those moments. Where are those moments? Oh, there it is. It doesn't have to be something big. Somebody doesn't have to give me a big old car. Oh my gosh, thank you. No, it's water on the stove, walking over, pouring it in my teacup. I smell the peppermint tea. I taste it. I'm in that moment again.
It's that presence, isn't it? And and I love what you say there about training the neural pathways, but what you're actually doing is training your entire body. Your subconscious, I believe, is in every cell of your body. So you're training your whole body to feel gratitude more often. And what happens is you start to emanate gratitude. People like moths to a flame will come to you as well. They'll want to be in your presence because you've got this beautiful energy about you, because gratitude is like, it's a beautiful, beautiful energy. Gratitude and love. So yeah, if you can train yourself to do it, and through that repetition, it'll become your personality. And you will, when you say thank you, it's not going to be an off the cuff remark. You've trained yourself to actually really feel it. And that's how we start to reconcile where we are now and where we want to be.
With grace and ease, right here. Georgia, this is beautiful. Thank you for showing up as your full self. I had zero doubt that you would.
As I said, I had no idea where this was going to go, and I didn't prep any answers. So sorry, a couple of them were a bit, but hopefully someone got some gold out of it.
We did some surfing together. It's all good. I learned so much during this conversation. I'm going to have to replay the little hints you dropped in about books and YouTubes, and I'm going to put those in links below this so that everybody can just easily link to the quotes you said and the books, and especially that YouTube of the metronomes. I want to find that for people so they can see that. But thank you for showing up as your full self today and giving us answers that could help us grow our own toolboxes and learn which ones to use when. And I really appreciated your generosity with leaning into curiosity and how that actually really works. Not just saying, just be curious, go out there and be curious. No, show me how. And you really did that. So thank you for sharing that with us today.
Thank you, Lara. It's been a delight, and I love connecting with you. And as you said, I'm going full circle back here. When you introduced me, I can still remember so vividly the day that we met, just crossing paths amongst the redwoods, and this big smile came my way. Like, you were such a blessing to this planet. So thank you.